And speaking of Washington, if Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has her way, investing in the stock market could actually cost you a whole lot more money. That's right. AOC co-sponsoring a bill that would hit Wall Street transactions, including the sales of stocks, bonds, and derivatives. It's a one-tenth of 1% tax, but it adds up. This is AOC and other Democratic socialists are also gaining traction amongst centrists within their own party who are now coming to their defense. In fact, just take a look at what Brad DeLong, who's an economist who actually served in the Clinton administration, said recently about siding with those on the left. He said, our current bunch of leftists are wonderful people as far as leftists in the past are concerned. They're social democrats. They're very strong believers in democracy. They're very strong believers in fair distribution of wealth. They could use a little more education about what is likely to work and what is not, but they're people who are we're very, very lucky to have on our side. So does he have a point? And is it time to pass the leadership baton in the Democratic Party from the center to the left? Here to weigh in, Fox News contributor Rory Murdoch and Washington Examiner's Tiana Lowe. Tiana, let me start with you. This tax, this so-called wealth tax, almost like any other tax, including the AMT, alternative minimum tax, which initially was designed to go after 13 families, eventually end up crushing millions of middle American families. It's got an insidious side effect, doesn't it?
Well, for one thing, the roughly $800 billion that'd be accrued under this tax would still pay for less than 1% of the $93 trillion in the first decade required by the Green New Deal. But I think that there's this weird perception about the stock market that it benefits the wealthy and not the working class. 1/3 of all outstanding American corporate stock is for retirement funds, which means it's primarily for middle and working class Americans, and 1/4 is for private investment, or as an average investment, and other sort of taxable funds. Only 1/4 of outstanding American corporate stock is for foreign entities or for who we perceive as being more of the wealthy. So any of these taxes, which will certainly increase volatility, as the IMF has already ascertained, and decrease market liquidity, will be bad for the average American, not for the wealthy.
Right. And Rory, I mean, and whatever these things are, it's always the wealthy who can find a way around them, the way to mitigate them, and it's always the not-so-wealthy who actually end up paying a heavy price anyway.
Well, that's very true. And here again, it's amazing. AOC comes up with an idea, and the Democrats jump on board. She continues her role as sort of the pace car for the Democrat Party's mad dash to the left. And this doesn't seem to be based on, well, we really need revenue. You know, we're trying to bring in money for any particular programs. Like so much that the left is doing today, it's about the punishment. Let's get back at the rich. They're not paying their fair share. This is all part of this sort of class warfare that we've seen the Democrats gin up in a big way.
Well, there's always a punitive side to the so-called economic schemes, if you will, but also there's a realization, I think, that they've got to pay for it. Now, if you throw Wall Street up there, then people may say it's great until they find out it's actually hurting them more than the fat cats who still seem to be able to shuttle back and forth from the Hamptons to the canyons of Wall Street.
Oh, of course. And you've got people who've got 401ks, they've got IRAs, you've got union people, union members who've got their pension funds invested on Wall Street. So this is not just people walking around Park Avenue in top hats. These are regular people who've got their retirement assets put aside on Wall Street to be built up so they can have pensions and retirements and comfort when they stop working.
You know, Tiana, Bill Clinton and those around him were seen as pragmatic, very smart politicians, able to be nimble and shift when they had to shift. So to hear someone from the Clinton administration suggest that, hey, this is a different kind of socialist, right? This is a socialist we should be embracing as Democrats. Another sign in my mind that the far left is consuming that party, and it will be their party at some point very soon.
I mean, Charles, obviously real socialism hasn't been tried yet. It wasn't in Venezuela, it wasn't in the Soviet Union. We've just never done it before. And if we actually tried, it would work. But in all seriousness, you have Larry Summers coming out excoriating the Democratic Party for embracing modern monetary theory. Just this idea that, you know, we can just print free cash from the Treasury money tree and that'll pay for all of it. You see, in a very, very, very limited scale, that works when the economy is booming. But if you're adding taxes at every turn in which the economy is growing, and when you're punishing investors, and when you're punishing average Americans for trying to enter the stock market,
right,
and not just engage in the consumption side, right, of the economy, then MMT certainly doesn't work at all.
Yeah, but DeRoy, it does not really matter if you frame this around social justice, and doing the right thing for the next generation who've always gotten the short end of the stick, particularly more recently as central banks have printed trillions of dollars to bail out banks and rich people.
Well, those slogans all sound very attractive. But again, show me anything other than the Hoover Dam that the government has done well. I'd say maybe the moonshot. Apollo 11 is a great movie. I just saw about that. But you look at Solyndra, you look at Cash for Clunkers, you look here in New York City, the New York City Housing Authority. This is the agency that runs the public housing here in New York City. They lied about testing water for lead. They've got rats in the buildings. People have leaky roofs. The government can't handle public housing in New York City, and the government in Washington, D.C., or at least the people in the Democrat Party, want to have the government take over everything, more and more involvement. And at best, it leads to inefficiency. At worst, corruption and total waste.
All right, DeRoy, Tiana, thank you both very much.